Hello, everyone. This is Coach Mike Marchetti, and I'm excited to have fellow business owner from Indiana with us today. It's my pleasure to welcome Tony Marchetti to the show today. Hello, Tony.
Hello, thanks for inviting me.
Oh, great. I'm really appreciative that you're able to get away and do this conversation with me. So let's start with you introducing yourself. Look at the situation of tell us a little bit about your story, where you're born, where your family's from, where you're living now, those type of things. Also, some hobbies. And then, of course, if you can remember any kind of funny story people like to talk to you about, I always like to ask that question. Gives a little more humor to it. What's your thoughts?
Well, my name is Tony Marchetti. I was born and raised in Roseville, Minnesota, a suburb of St. Paul. I grew up in a Catholic family of four brothers, one sister. I married my my high school sweetheart, and we had four children of our own, three girls, one boy, and now we have 12 grandchildren as well. I'm a avid golfer, huge Minnesota Viking fan. Um, and yeah, golf is my passion. That's uh,
Any other
well,
hobbies or any funny story you want to talk about? Again, it is.
there's funny stories. There's probably too many for me to recall, but I went to an all boys Catholic military high school, um, and I graduated and wasn't really ready for college. I was kind of immature and really didn't have any direction. So I joined the Air Force at 17 years old, which made me the youngest in my squadron. So it was quite an eye opening situation for me, but it helped me grow up. I went to air traffic control school when I joined after basic training. And I went to Grand Forks, North Dakota. Then I spent a year in Vietnam, and then I spent a 2 years in Panama City, Florida, which is a great duty for a 20-year-old.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of honing my skills as a air traffic controller. And my goal was to join the FAA upon uh, finishing my duty. So I joined the FAA, and my first uh, place to be a controller was in Rochester, Minnesota. But was a good place to start. But since I wanted to advance in the FAA, you have to move around. And my goal was to get back to Minneapolis International. So that's how I got to South Bend. I transferred to South Bend. And that's kind of where my life changed. So in 1981, I was fired for striking by Ronald Reagan.
Oh,
And I had four children, and pretty frightening of what was next for me. So, but I always wanted to get in my own business, but I had saved some money. So I looked around for opportunities and opened a video rental business. And that's kind of its infancy back then. And I took on a partner and we did pretty well. We had 7 stores. And then, as business partners go, we have some disagreements. And so I sold out to him and um, just was going to head right back to Minnesota. But a friend of mine introduced me to a failing motorhome company. So he said, well, maybe an opportunity we can turn this around. And we had like 12 Elkhart businessmen got together and bought the company, and which the motorhome was a huge failure and continued to be a huge failure. And then people started to bail out from the business. Um, but they had a truck, a little truck that was a little delivery truck with a heated compartment in it. And it was a pizza delivery truck. So took that truck and kind of finished the build on it and built two more. So there was three, and took them to a pizza show in Orlando. Sold those trucks in about 2 hours. And I thought, wow, I just struck gold. But little did I know that it took me months to sell the next one. See, back then, the pizza industry was in its infancy, or delivery, excuse me, food delivery in general. So learning that I had to create my own market, that was more challenged than I had experienced. So, but we kept plodding along, and a couple of guys and me were all that was left. And so we slowly started crawling along and tried different things to get people interested in our truck. And then we started to add refrigeration and freezer capabilities to kind of appeal to a broader customer base. So we started to grow little by little. We did Meals on Wheels programs, and a restaurant, pizza restaurant delivery, and catering, and kept growing little by little. Capital was always an issue.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to sell nationwide. So, uh, but we stayed in business. Could have been out of business 10 or 15 or 20 times over that course, but we stuck it out. I had to mortgage my house a few times, even put payroll on my credit card at one point. That's scary enough. So we just kept plodding along, and I've kind of learned in business, if you can stay alive long enough to catch a break, you will. If you're not there to catch it, then you're obviously out of business. So, well, our break came in 2007, and I met a gentleman. His name's Tony Lamb, and he was an entrepreneur with a vision. He is the founder of Kona Ice, which is a mobile shaved ice franchise. Mm. So we built 3 prototypes for him, and he played with them himself, tested them out in Kentucky, Cincinnati area. And then the following year, we built 18 more, and he started to do some franchising. So in the following year after that 18, we built 50. And the next year we built 80. Next year we built 100. Next year we built 150. And to date, we built over 3,000 Kona Ice trucks.
Wow.
Currently, we're building a coffee truck for them. And you've probably seen them around the Michiana area, the Kona Ice and the coffee truck. And also a cookie truck. He's started another franchise. So Kona Ice gave us the resources in order to expand our offerings, gave us a lot more resources to work with. And we slowly started to get the confidence of larger companies, like some of the companies are FedEx, Aramark, mm-hmm. Gordon Foods. We do all their refrigerated vans across the country. And then we started a food truck business as well. That is a new part of our business, but we're making food trucks for Chick-fil-A, and we're making food trucks for Live Nation, which is Ticketmaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
And doing some college and universities, and obviously restaurants and stuff that wants to go mobile. So over the last 39 years, we've gained a lot of, basically become a player in the industry. And so it's almost 40 years we stuck it out, and so we're significant at this point. So I'm most proud of that.
So what year was that first year? Was it 80?
1986.
86. Okay, got it. Yeah. Wow. Incredible story. Have you always been known as Delivery Concepts, Inc.?
Always been known as DCI, right?
Delivery Concepts
Incorporated.
Yeah.
Actually, it was always delivery concept, but now it's just kind of DCI. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, everybody likes acronyms.
and we have facilities in Elkhart and in Osceola. We make food trucks in Elkhart as well as Meals on Wheels and catering trucks. And in Osceola, we build refrigerated box trucks and vans for the food industry.
Fascinating way you got there, as well as the fact that I'll call it a big pivot when you suddenly had that knock on the door from the Reagan administration saying go away, which so
Yeah,
it said a
that was
lot
a
of
little
your,
scary.
yeah, it also set a lot of your ambitions differently because I was visualizing you being in Minneapolis St. Paul air terminal because I've flown in there many, many times, and it could imagine you wanting to be in the top of the the
The
heat
food chain.
yeah, yeah, up in the top, the high best
Yeah, I mean,
view.
I loved the job, and it was a shock to be removed from it in such a young age. I was a pretty young man, but um, so fear drove me,
Yeah.
and
Well, kind of now we're going to move a little bit from the where you came and where you've gone to and you're successful. Tell me a little bit more personal stuff about, share a story when someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it and the impact they had. I mean, I realize that you might have had many people, but zero in one if you could just talk about that for a bit.
um, well, I think I had two partners, and they still one has passed that you know they were encouraging. They kept fighting,
Mhm.
and when we were down and out, pretty much, they stuck. We stuck together and crawled, and every time we went to a convention or show, that we'd be polishing the truck and doing all the work and doing all the legwork and traveling, trying to push get somebody interested. So, they were my motivation as well. I didn't want to fail them, and they didn't want to fail me, obviously. So, yeah, they were an inspiration. And as far as uh, people I admire,
Yeah.
I think my favorite of all time is Mr. Rogers. He was the most human individual I think I've ever experienced listening to and watching. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. He's just a pure of heart individual,
Yeah.
and it'd be great if I could be like him, but that's almost
Kind of.
impossible.
Well, you have a wonderful voice like him, a very gentle, enduring tone. So you're not that far away. You could, I'm sure you look good in a sweater too. So, uh, so as far as that, you explained who helped inspire you, and you had your partners. What's the biggest learning you've had as a business owner?
Biggest learning, a couple things. Like I said, the one I mentioned already is staying alive long enough to catch a break.
Okay.
Because if you're not there to catch it, you're out of business. Another is that you separate your personal financial life from your business life. You don't make the business your personal checking account. That's no way to run a business at all. I mean, I've never bought a car through the business or
Mhm.
did any of that. I just couldn't do it in my own personal uh, thoughts, anyway. Also, I think you have to have a lot of humility and a lot of appreciation for the people that work for you. You may be the boss, but they have lives and they want to do well. They want their children to go to school and they have dreams, and they're without them, you're nothing anyway. You can't get the job done. So I'm very fond of my employees, and I talk to them with much, much respect. I think that's important for any person in business, is to treat them as an equal. Um, Anything else I've learned was, you know, you not always can take a sabbatical. If you're teaching college, you can take a year sabbatical, go somewhere. If you're in your own business, when you're down, you got to crawl the ditch by yourself.
Yeah.
And it's one day at a time. But the good news is, I've been blessed the fact that I can be as miserable and down and in a lot of despair, but the next morning I'm always brand new. There's always something going to happen better today. So I didn't carry that feeling to the next day. I'd wake up and I say, hey, something good's going to happen today. And for the most part, it does. So I think, so you got to just stay the course, be persistent, and don't give up.
Wow, those are some incredible words. And again, like you indicated, your two original partners have been influential. Also, I'm sure you're working with, like you said, your one major client, the Kona gentleman, the Kona ice person, inspired you. So as you look at those past things, now let's kind of project it and turn around and say, let's look at the future. And I realize that you have some plans ahead of you. What do you think the next 1 to 3 years? What's your number one point of challenge you're going to have to achieve some new goals? I mean, what do you think the situation can be like?
Well, to me, I think the biggest challenge is to cultivate succession. I have a wonderful young lady that is the president of the company right now. And my son has done a fabulous job creating clientele of importance, the bigger companies. And we need to cultivate a process in which our employees keep growing and the leadership continues to value customer service and quality in our product that we build, because it takes a long time to get big companies to have confidence that you could build the product that they need. And it's important that everyone keeps listening to the customer instead of dictating to the customer. So we listen to what their needs are and we try to make those become a reality for them. So yeah, I think that, like I said, the 1 to 3 years is really setting the course for the future, because I can't. I'm getting up there in age,
Mm-hmm.
and that's important to me that it continues its legacy and employees have, and we continue to give opportunity to people around the Michiana area to grow. So I think that's my biggest challenge.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Kind of my next question on this same future focus is tied to, I call it a legendary person in our world of business engagement, business knowledge transfer. His name is Jim Rohn. And Rohn is known for a lot of things. He just passed away a year or two ago, but one of his most strongest lessons that he says is that we tend to become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And as we look at this, and I'm curious about how you see this being, what's your advice for a business owner who's trying to do it all on their own?
Well, I say it's impossible to do it on your own.
Huh.
You have to have participation from people who care, trustworthy, no Debbie Downers. You have to have people that believe in what you're trying to accomplish, people that inspire you, or they want to do good work. They want to be part of something successful. They want to, like I get such a kick. My employees get such a kick of seeing a Chick-fil-A truck or a Kona Ice truck when they go to their children's ball game, the Cone Ice truck will show up, and their kids say, "Hey, my daddy built that truck,"
That's,
and that is so cool.
that is neat.
And um, yeah, you need people to get you through the day, because sometimes you're not always going to be in that happy-go-lucky mood, but you walk by, somebody says, "Hey, get that that sad face off," you know what I mean, and make a joke, keep you moving. So yeah, you need good advice from, you want a decent lawyer and a good banker. A good banker is really nice to have. Because it's like I said, capital is important sometimes, and so you need people that will work with you.
Nice.
And also, and don't abandon your family. Sometimes when you're working hard and you're there all the time, you can't forget what your kids are doing, and you got to get to their ball games no matter what the cost. You got to get to their functions, and you got to take your wife out, and because they do the sacrificing that you don't see every day. They do it at home every day, and they keep the family together while you're trying to do something. Sometimes you can get selfish and afraid, and you don't want to leave work, but you really need to, because life goes by in a hurry.
Yeah. Wow. Great response there, Tony. Thank you very much on that. Oh, by the way, for anybody who wants to check it out, below our listing here, we have Tony's LinkedIn as well as his access to his domain, so he can look at the website of his company. It's just a very nice website and tells a great story. So please check that out. So Tony, it sounds like you've been blessed with some very incredible people who've helped you along the journey. What would you just like to say to them?
Well, I'd like to say thanks for my wife for still being married to me. We celebrated 50 years in October. God blessed her for putting up with me. And I just want to say thanks. I call out to a man, John Ford, he's my right hand and my left hand, been with me for 30 plus years. And without him, I probably wouldn't be in this position, but he's a gentleman and a very dear friend as well. So shout out to him, and a shout out to my two partners for their hard work, and to all my employees and my children who still love me. So,
Yay.
and thanks to God, actually.
Okay. Best for last. So Tony, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you today and my show. And again, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
We'll have a great day.
You too.